Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to continue with the next project, with the next section, which is the complex version of our simple colors generator, random color generator. Today we're going to continue by doing this. As I told you before, I won't focus on the HTML, neither the CSS, just going to focus with the JavaScript. Okay? So without further ado, I am NeoDev. Let's grow together and let's get started. Alright, so let me remove this. We don't need that anymore. This is the last project that we did. So we go back, we have our random generator colors over there. Let's open our VS Code. It's still with the previous code. So we need to work with the complex now. So right away, let's create a new style file .css as well as the complex.js. As I told you before, we're going to just focus on the JavaScript. So right away, inside of the GitHub repository, the complex section, complex HTML, and then grab everything. Just gonna grab it, paste it inside of my HTML body. Sorry, HTML file. Now for same goes for the CSS. Grab it, all of it, paste it. At this point we should be able to see what's going on. I mean, if I remove this, go here and go with the complex, ta-da! Our initial boilerplate. Alright then, so everything has been set up, HTML and CSS. Next we need to focus on the JavaScript. I believe it's already linked. Okay, so first things first, we need to start with this switch. We need to toggle it. So we need to apply, first of all, DOM manipulation. First we are going to have our checkbox, this one with this checkbox with the ID of checkbox, and then query selector all the form control, form-control, all these divs, 1, 2, 3, and 4 divs with this class of 4 control. Alright, in order to be able to see, to switch it. So let's jump into right now. So first of all, toggle. So we will say checkbox that add event listener, click, and then as my callback function here, I need to call control form that for each, because remember query selector all returns a collection. So I'm able to apply for each method there. Then for each control form, I would like to toggle the class of none, class list, toggle the class of the -none, because remember initially 3 of them they have the class of the none, 1, 2, and 3. As you can see at the very end of our CSS file, we have the class the none as a display none. So we are going just to toggle it. So if we click, we're able to see the 3 inputs or the single one. Alright guys, our next step is going to be to toggle the class of focus. First of all, DOM manipulation, we're calling all our inputs that has a class of control-input. Therefore, I am able to say inputs that for each, because the query selector all returns a collection. So for each input, I will attach a listener. First listener is going to be focus. Then for my callback function here, I'm going to create a new function called focus fx, and I'm going to pass the input itself. Of course, we need to create that. So focus fx, I'm sending the input itself, and then I will say I.parent node that class list that add, who am I going to add? Well, the class of focus. Why? Well, first of all, parent node, this is because that my input has the parent of a div with the class of form-control. And here inside of our styles, you will be able to see that if my form-control has the class of focus, please apply this to the h4 and this for the CSS selector after and before, as well as this one. Okay, so without further ado, let's give it a try, and there we go. Alright, now we need to apply the same logic, so just going to grab it to save us some time, paste it. Now instead of focus, this is going to be for the blur effect, and instead of focus function, this is going to be a blur function. So it's going to follow the same idea. We need to call it, create it, and instead of add, we need to remove it naturally. So if we focus, remove, and there you go. Nonetheless, if we type something inside of our input and we remove the focus class here, the H4 of course returns to its initial position. Therefore, we're not able to see anything. I want to prevent that behavior by typing the following. The next conditional. If the value of the input is empty, please run, please run the next code. So again, if I type something, of course, they remains the same, still there. Great. Right guys, we need to start working with this button. So first of all, to manipulation, that button has the class of CTA, and I will attach a listener. In this case, it's going to be a click, and for my callback function, event parameter, because it's inside of a form, so e.prevent default for prevent default behavior. Why? And here we're going to use a boolean, but why? This boolean, I will call it let boolean control, and it's going to start with true. So if my boolean control is true at the moment, I will create a function that is called handle to RGB because currently we are on the hexadecimal value and we want to convert that number to an RGB format. Otherwise, we will create a function called handle to X. So why the boolean value? Okay, give me 1 second to start my other. Why? Because when we hit on this switch, we are going to be able to use these inputs now. So therefore, if my boolean control changes to false, I'm able to run this function. Okay, that's the reason of the boolean value. For now, this will give me an error, of course, because we have not created yet those functions. So first of all, handle to RGB. Of course, since my boolean control variable is true, I will be able to see only one message, which in this case is going to be yes to RGB, because now I'm currently on the hexadecimal value to convert that to an RGB format. We need to work with this input. So first of all, to manipulation, that input has the ID of xval. So we need to start to work with the handle to RGB now. So I will store that, so let y equals to xval that value. I'm going to store that in this variable. But just in case, I would like to convert this to a lowercase, as well as remove any remaining white space. So the 3 method over there. Let's console.log the white variable just for now. And remember, the hexadecimal numbers starts with a hash and whatever the number the user wants to put. But we will allow the user to use the hash symbol or not. That won't be a problem. But in order to do that, we need a function here. So here I'm going to create a function called check hash, because that's the hash symbol, to the whole value of my input. And naturally we need to create that function. So ffm check hash, and this is receiving a variable, so going to call it val. And then here, I'm so sorry, I will create a variable called hash, and this one is going to be my regular expression. This is a regex, so my apologies. Yes, we're going to use regular expressions in this video, sorry. So I will say the following: if my hash, my regular expression, is include on my value of the value of my input, what do I need to do here? Well, we need to remove that hash. So we will say the new value of my val is going to be val that replace. Who am I going to replace? Well, the hash with an empty string. And then I will return the val, or the value, you know. Now if we go back, we taste it, and then if I go with the hash 654, and there you go, it has been removed. But of course, just to let you know, this is the other way to do it is by using the other method. I mean, val that slice from number 1. So this is a strict method. So for instance, if my number is 345, so it's a string, this is the 0 index and number 1 index. So this slide works with the number 1 and beyond. So therefore it's going just to remove the first one, which in this case is the first character. In this case is the hash symbol. Okay, that is the slice. Let me show you again. So 1 2 3, and the hash has been removed. Now our next step is going to be to work with this alert. Okay, so in order to do that, we need to apply again the manipulation. So let message the query selector the message, which is this section with the class of message. Therefore, inside of a handle to RGB, we're going to apply a little form validation. So first thing first, if I don't have any value, so if I don't have any value, I will create a function called setAlert, and I will set a message there. And my first mention is going to be the entry cannot be empty, because currently it's empty, you know. Okay. The next conditional is, what if the user types anything else? I mean, you know the hexadecimal values const of numbers between 0 until 9 and letters A until F, sorry, that combination. But what if the user types anything else, any other kind of symbol, because it's allowed to? I won't run anything else, so I need to set an alert there. So else, we'll say first of all, I'm cleaning the value, so x that value and clean the input, sorry, back to null. Or you can use an empty string, it will work anyway. Now, and I will set the alert. In this case I already have it here, so not going to waste typing at all. So oops, something went wrong with the given value. And finally, if I'm removing the value, the text value of my input, I will call this function, this blur function. So I'm gonna grab it and need to send the input itself. So in this case is the xval, because the xval is document.querySelector with the ID xval, which is this input itself. Alright then, so of course we need to create that function setAlert. So fnm setAlert, we are sending a message right here, and inside of here we need to say the following. So message that inner HTML should be equals to, let's use backticks, because we need to use this expression, this one right here. So I'm just going to grab it and paste it to save us some time. So instead of this random message hard coded, we're going to use $, color braces, and send that message that we are passing through. And then we need to say message that class list that add, we're going to add the class of alert, because inside of my CSS file, my alert has the class of, sorry, my message has the class of alert, and is going to trigger the background color, border, and the rest of the CSS properties there. Okay, one that has been set up. Let's try it, and there you go. Now, in order to close this set alert or alert as our final product, sorry, our final project, we need just to click on it. So in order to achieve that, we need to say the following inside of this function: message that add event listener is going to be click. So if we click on that alert callback function, I need to remove everything we did so far. So going to grab it, paste it, and so in order to remove inner HTML back to null. Again, you can use an empty string, it will do the trick anyway. And instead of add, this is going to be remove. So let's try that again, and then click on it. No, sorry, here, this one. Try that again, click on it, and type anything else that is not a value, valid input value, and there you go. Oops, something went wrong with the given value. Alright, before we move on, I made a little mistake here. It's supposed to be value, not val. So let's try that again, and there you go. The text, it's gone. Now let's carry on by creating a new variable called length. stands for length, the length of our string. Next, I'm going to create two regular expressions. There you go. And they are going to check if my regular expression should check letter A until F, and then the digits 0 until 9. And for the first one, I'm going to check 6 digits or characters, and the other one is going to check 3 digits or characters. Now here we're going to create another conditional. What if my user succeeds? I mean, if he or she types the correct hexadecimal value in order to convert that to an RGB. So we will say else if, and this conditional is going to run like this. If my length is equal, is equal to 3, that's for 3 digits. Remember the hexadecimal value. For example, here for our CSS, we are allowed to use 6 digits or only 3 digits. I mean, this is color white as well as 1, 2, 3, 6. Okay, 6 digits is the same 6 digits as 3 digits. Okay, so having said that, okay, so if my length is equals to 3, and if I test my regular expression, so if my errec number 3 that test, who am I going to test? Well, my string. So if this is true and if this is true, okay, that means that it's being successfully. So here is for 3 digits. Now for the other one, for the other 6, we're going to follow pretty much the same idea. Grab it, paste it. Instead of 3, this should be 6. Instead of 3, this should be 6. So this conditional means that my user successfully inject or type any valid hexadecimal value. Once we are here, we just need to say just console.log and success. Let's give it a try. So a valid input should be this one. So we should get the success. There you go. And another 3 more digits and success, of course. Now if we type anything else, even if we don't type any hash at the beginning, we are giving the success. Once the user succeeded to put the correct values, I will create a new function called convert to RGB. Let's remove this comment, and of course we need to pass the string itself and the length. How many characters my string has. So okay, the function converts to RGB, and I'm sending the Y, which is the string, and then the length. Here we're going to start by creating 3 new variables. Let R semicolon, let RG semicolon, and let RGB and semicolon. You can these 3 are initially they are undefined. Next I will create a new variable called each char, stands for each character, is going to be started by an empty array. Here I'm going to loop through my string, and in order to do that we're going to use a for of loop. So this is going to be let, and this is going to be my iterator, and I'm going to loop through my string. So in this case is the Y value. This is my string, this Y. Once that is done, I will say each character should be pushed inside of my array. So let's just console.log each character now. So convert to RGB. Okay, let's see. So if we inspect, we expand, let's make it succeed. So 3 digits, and there you go. I'm having my array. Even if I remove the hash, I'm still having my array. Okay, that means that it's still working. Now here comes the logic. How do we convert the rest of the digits? I mean the letters A until F. Well, let's have a look at this table. This gives us the equivalent values of each data. So I can say the following. So for each character, I will loop by using the for each loop. So I will set my character, and I'm going to use the index for my callback function. Inside of this, we're going to use a switch statement, and we are going to check each character. So let's remove this for now, And as you can see, from the number 0 until 9, it doesn't matter because they have the same value, the same equivalent data value. So here on the default value, I am allowed to say the following. I will say each character, which is my array, in order to get access to a certain element of an array, I will use the index. So this will be equal, because I'm going to change that, a specific value. So it doesn't matter what letter it is. So I'm checking the number 0 until 9. I just need to convert that into an integer because I'm receiving a string type. So I need to convert that. I'm going to use the plus sign. You can use parse int, that's okay, that's up to you. We're going to use just the plus sign at the front of the expression here. So index. And then I will break the switch input like so. Oh my god, semicolon. Okay, I'm breaking that. And then after that, after this for each, I will console.log each character. Let's check that out. So console, so just numbers for now. So 1, 3, 4, 5, and there you go. We are having from string type to a number type or integer type. Nonetheless, what about the rest of the letters or characters? A until letter F. So since the numbers 0 until 9, they doesn't matter anymore because they have the same value, we only going to focus with the number 10 until 15, where number 10 on base 16 equivalents letter A until 15 equivalents letter F. Therefore, inside of my switch statement, I can say the following. So for the case of letter A, B, C, or D of if, I can change that specific character back to number 10, 11, 13, 14, and so on. Now let's try it. So a letter, I believe DFD. Let's console, let's see. And we have the equivalent 13, 15, and 13 in that order. So from string to an integer. So how can we actually calculate to an hexadecimal value to an RGB? Well, let me give you an example. So for instance, we have this hexadecimal value, and with the table just next to it, we have the equivalent values of each data. So letter D is 13, letter A 10, and so on and so on. Next, the first two digits are going to be the R, the other two the G, and the other two the P, red, green, and blue. Next, we're going to apply the next formula. So for the first part, it's going to be 16 times 13 plus 10. And the same way for G and B. Therefore, my results are going to be 218, 112, and 214. So with the previous example given, we can carry on now inside of our function. First, we need a conditional. If the length is more than 3, this means or stands for that we have 6 digits inside of our string, or our string has six digits of characters. So following the structure as we see before, so R, because we already declared that here, is going to be equals to 16 times what? Well, each character, the first element. Remember, because we have an array of 6 elements, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements. This is the index 0, 1, 2 until 5. So I have the first two. So 16 times the first element of my array plus the second one, which is in this case going to be each char square braces number 1 in order to get access to that specific element, of course. Now the rest of the G and B, we're going to follow the same structure, 16 times this character and so on, plus the number 3, I mean the element with the index 3, and so on with the letter B. And let's just console that log G and B. This is if we have 6 digits. Else, what if we don't have 6 digits, we have 3 digits? Well, we're going to follow or apply the same logic, but in this case we're going to have only 3 elements. So pretty much the same idea. So just going to grab it, paste it. So instead of 1, this is going to be 0. Instead of 1, this is going to be 0. So instead of 2, this should be 1, this should be 1, and finally this should be 2, and this should be number 2. Okay, without further ado, let's give it a whirl. So console, okay, DFD, convert, there you go, we have our RGB equivalent values over there. FDF, there you go. In order to see if my example was accurate, let's test it out. So DA70D6, this should give me the numbers 218, 112 and 214. Our next step here is to display the results. As you can see, we just console that log, but we are not able to see the result inside of our browser. So what do we need to do first? Well, above of everything, DOM manipulation. Current xval actually get element by ID, I believe is the H4, this one right here. Okay, then the next element is the board, of course, because we need to change the background color. Then the result. The result itself is the element with the ID of result, this one right here, this one right here. So in this case is this H3. Now current RGB, current RGB values are coming from, okay, the H4, current, because if I switch in this, I should be able to see those values here as well. Okay, so we already did DOM manipulation. We need to go back inside of our function, convert to RGB, and after checking everything else, we need to display the results. So first things first, the DOM. We need, first of all, I need to clean my X value, my input, I need to clean it, then my board, that style, background color, and I'm going to inject that color because that's my string. Remember, the string is coming through right here and just need to set that with the hash, of course, in order to change the background color. The same goes with the current X value, which is the H4, this one right here, hash 222. And finally, result text content, this one right here is going to change with the RGB, with the current or new RGB values. Okay, let's try it out. DA70D6, we convert that, there you go, we're able to see the result here, as well as we should be able to see it here as well. So we will fix that in a moment. So if we switch, we need to be able to see that content. So I'm going to grab it, everything, and I'm going to paste them because current RGB are my H4. They are those H4. So let's go back. Let's try that again. What was the number? Actually, the value. Let's convert that. There you go. If we switch, there you go. 218, 112, and 214. Alright, I know that you realize that that value didn't change. So in order to fix that, we need to go scroll up really up in this checkbox listener. We're going to use the boolean control to be equals to the differential of the boolean control instead of true, false, and so on every time we click on the switch. And then we are going to have a conditional. So boolean control, if it's true, something happens, else the other thing happens. And what's going to happen? Well, I need to grab my result, that text content in this case should be equals to practice $, color bracers, current xval at text x content, this one right here. So gonna copy, gonna paste, and text content. For now, I'm just going to console that log wherever. So again, DA70D6, I believe, whatever, it doesn't matter. So if I click on that, there you go, it has changed, and that's great. Now the other thing to do is inside of this if statement, I need to show the result back again. As you can see, it remains the same. So in order to do that, we basically are going to follow the same structure. But where does it come from, that those values? Well, they are coming actually from my H4, all of my H4 right here. So here I'm going to say the following. So current RGB, so we're gonna grab it, current B, current R, and current RGB, that text content, so for the same is going to run for the other one, and here going to apply the method of slide. That slide going to remove two initial string values and going to store this in a new variable called slice r. But of course this is going to be for slice G and slice B. What am I doing this? Well, the reason for that is because my current R, which is my H4, that text content is coming from this one right here. Initially it has the letter R and hyphen. The same goes for the G and the B. So I need to get rid of these two letters at the front and then just show the pure value of the RGB, as you can see. That's the reason I'm using the slide method. Then I can apply the following as we did before. So text content equals result and $ curly braces, but instead of this I'm going to use RGB, parentheses over there, and then going to use 3 of them. So by comma $ curly braces, comma $ curly braces, so we will have our RGB. So R, G, and B. So let's test it out that again. So if I change this H4 should be displayed in this part and on the result. If I change that back again and so on, great. Right, we need to work with handle to X to hexadecimals. To start with, we need to create an array. So our RGB should be equals to an empty array. Then we're going to use the block try and catch, and of course finally try and catch, and finally those blocks. Why? Because thanks to the try catch method, that's the only way that we can break the for each loop. So I'm going to use my inputs, all of them, remember inputs that for each. So for each input I will use my callback function here, and first I will create a new regular expression. So guys, in case I didn't mention it before, the G is a flag. G flag stands for a global match. When this flag is used, the regular expression will search for all occurrences of the parent in the input. So basically it will check all the characters. And the I flag stands for case insensitive. So it doesn't matter if the user types a capital A or a lowercase a. Okay? Why am I using now a regular expression here? Because we're going to use a validation, a little validation. We need to make sure that the user here is only going to work with numbers, because RGB format only allows numbers from 0 until 255. Okay, that's the reason. So for my validation here, so if I.id is different than xval, remember the IIRD, my xval is my first H4, sorry, my first input, my apologies, my first input. This, if this is different, then run the next piece of code. So this means that I'm using, this validation means that I'm currently using RGB, any of my RGB inputs. Okay, so if this is passing, I'm allowed to do the following. Again, another validation. We're going to RGX. We're gonna test that regular expression. So test, and who am I going to test? Well, the value of my current input. It doesn't matter if this is coming from R. Of course, it's not switching because I'm getting an error. It's okay. It doesn't matter if it doesn't come from an R, G, or B input, because we are using a for each loop there. Okay, we are testing that out. So here we're going to throw an error. So if this is true, if the value is true, I'm going to throw an error, because that means that my user is entering some letters. Okay, so my text message here is going to be the following: only numbers allowed. All right, then else if my value doesn't exist, or my value is more than 255, or my value, the input value is less than 0, because remember those inputs, RGB inputs, are only going to work from numbers 0 until 255. Okay, so I'm making sure that the user injects or sets the correct data, and I'm going to throw a new error. Please check the values. And finally else are going to push that value, that value to my array. So value. So the current input, the value of that current input, I'm going to push that inside of my array. Okay, so okay, I'm throwing those errors and I need to catch those errors right here. So I will say inside of the catch block, I'm going to use my function that I just created. Remember, set alert, and going to send those messages. All right, finally, I would like to clean my inputs. So it doesn't matter if it succeeds or not. Anyway, I'm going to clean that input. So first of all, since we are dealing with 3 inputs, I'm going to use for each I, because we're dealing with the RGB inputs. So that value should be equal back to empty string, or you can use null, it will work anyway. And then I will call my blur function, so blur fx, and I need to send the current input in order to remove the h4 and the blue underline here. Alright then, so finally, after that a new if statement. So if my array RGB.length has 3 elements, that means that I'm just succeeded, or the user just succeeded. So I will set the message of succeed. Alright, now let's try that out. So I will expand, inspect, let's go within the console, refresh just in case, and let's go with our RGB. Please check the values. Okay, what if I type any letter? Only numbers allowed, of course. What if I type negative numbers? Please check the values, of course. Now if I am allowed to type regular numbers, no more than 255, succeed. Now we need the function to work in order, we need a function to convert that back to an hexadecimal value. So the function will be this one, convert to x. For now, comment this out, because we need to display the values that we set, where are you, here, the values that we set here on those h4. So the way we can do that is by saying current, my god, just beneath this, so current -b, for instance, that text content should be equals to backticks, $, curly bracers, and this is going to be blue. So b hyphen, and then this should be my array. So our array RGB square brace notation, the last element. So let's try that out. It doesn't matter, sorry, let's keep numbers, it doesn't matter, and 5 6, and we have 5 6. That's great. So the same is going to run for the R and the G as well. So it's just going to paste them, and if we try that again, so 1 2 3 4 3 and 6 5, and there you go, we have those numbers. Okay, now we can jump into that function. So just gonna copy, comment this out, and above this we'll create that function. So convert to x, we are sending that array. Okay, and just beneath this part we can start by saying the following. We're going to create again a new array. I'm going to call it my array. Should start as an empty array. Then for my array that I'm passing through, array RGB, that we're going to use the for each method again. So for each element that I have inside each RGB value, we're going to apply the logic. The method that we're going to follow is thanks to the dividend, divisor, reminder, and quotient. So for instance, we have the RGB values 220, so we have to divide it by 16, so that gives us the quotient 13, and the reminder should be 12. But those values for hexadecimal values are C and D, but in the order from right to left, in this order. So we are completing our hexadecimal values. So the same idea is going to wrap for 20 and 60, and that's the way we get our result. So we need our quotation first, so let Q stands for quotation. So I'm going to use the dividend, which in this case is going to be the element of my array, and then divided by the divisor, in this case going to be 16. But I want the integer. I don't want any kind of decimal, so that's the reason I'm using Matplotlib. Then I will need the remainder. For the remainder we're going to use what? Well, the remainder operator, and it's going to be divided, in this case in quotes, you know, by 16. Then after I get in those values, so for my array I'm going to push those values in that order, remember, right to left. So in this case it's going to be the quotation first and then the remainder. And after this we need to convert any number back to a letter, the same way as we did here. We're going to follow the same structure. So the array they're going to use is of course my array inside of this function, and I'm going to use a for each method, and inside of it I'm going to use a switch statement there. So changing the number back to the letter that it belongs. Alright, then finally we need to apply finally, if I can spell. What do we want inside of our DOM? Well, I need to target my board to give it the style of background color should be equal to, we're going to use backticks, we're going to use a hash sign, and then because that's the background color of course, dollar sign, square bracers, and then from my array, this one right here, going to use the join method. The join method sets the array back to a readable string. Okay, so the same is going to run for the result and my current h4 value. So for the result, this result right here, my current x val, text content, in this case it is hash 222. Okay, let's try that out. So this should be convert to x. Okay, no, okay, this one right here, convert to x. So 45, I don't know, 32, 12, and it's converted. So I don't know. Now we have a little bug here. If I type anything, okay, something went wrong. Okay, if I type, you will see that this remains the same. So the focus class is still there. So that means that I missed something. In which function? I believe, okay, convert to RGB. Yes, this function right here. I forgot to call the blur function. So at the very end, this one right here, and I need to pass the x val because that's the input, the x val input. I believe that should do it now, so let's try that again, and there you go, it's gone. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did it. I know it was quite long again, even that I removed the CSS and the HTML at the beginning, but I hope you really learned something today or practice something today, because we have the menu, we can display both of them. So okay, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. See you on the next one.
Hey bros, ¿qué onda? Esto es Carmen, bro. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because